I'll never forget the phone call I got. It's really brutal. I've unfortunately dealt with suicide in my past, not just once, but more than once. I actually lost a pretty close friend when I was 15. He committed suicide, and that was really hard. He was a close friend of mine who I played music with quite a bit, actually. I lost my younger brother also to suicide about 5 years ago. So, as you can imagine, that was also very difficult. Nothing, you know, having gone through that once, doing it again, nothing prepared me for that. It wasn't, easier the second time or anything. I'm still navigating all that. At my brother's age, when he passed away, he was still in high school, and I think there was something like 5 more deaths by suicide that same year within his class. I had to fly home from Kansas City because I was still living here at the time. So when I got the news, I had to, well, what do I do now? Kind of figure it out. And my aunt actually called me and she booked me a flight home, which was so nice of her to do that. And I remember the flight home being especially brutal because I basically just sat in my seat and cried until we landed. And I'm sure everyone was looking over, and I don't know how loud I was at the time, but yeah, I do remember it being just brutal. Flew home for the funeral and all that, and I do remember people just coming in and out of the house that I hadn't seen in a long time, or some people that I have never seen. But yeah, it does sort of taper off after a bit, and you kind of just have to navigate it on your own or within a closer support group if you have people you feel comfortable with, or like my family, we were all kind of grieving together. Just loneliness, feeling like, I guess, confusion as well, not knowing what you're supposed to do, because I don't think anyone really knows still, and everyone's different. Everyone's situation is different. How they process grief is different. So I guess just being confused. I felt, anger at one point. Definitely, sad, obviously, but I didn't, get any kind of note or anything. No one did. No one had like a last goodbye type of thing. There's definitely no sense of closure there either, which I think is really weird. Just an abrupt kind of halt, especially if you didn't notice anything before, no warning signs or whatever, anything like that. But it was extra hard because I wasn't even around. Like, I moved to Kansas City, so the past little bit, however long, he might have been struggling and I wasn't around, so I didn't know. It was hard. I felt a lot of guilt because of that. I felt like when I moved, I was kind of leaving him behind, and him being my younger brother, I felt like he kind of looked up to me in a lot of ways, and him and I got really close before he died. So I definitely felt a lot of guilt just not being there. And you can look and look, and believe me, I did. When I was there, I was in his room for a while and just kind of sitting, and then I started looking around. I didn't know what I expected to find, but I definitely had a feeling of I needed to figure something out. I remember going back through text messages and like, what did I say? Where did I miss something? Did he say something? So it was just like an endless search, like a journey I had to go on. And I just had to assume after that it had to do something with me. I wasn't there. I left. I abandoned him type of thing. Definitely all thoughts that I really sat with for a long time. Eventually, you just realize there's no end. Like, there's no definitive answer. And I guess I just kind of shifted my perspective into he's no longer in pain and, is at peace, I guess. I think it just came with time, and then just kind of telling myself that exactly, that I don't really need an answer. I don't, At a point, I would have liked that, but I don't need one anymore. I don't think that was something that was owed to me necessarily, but you know, it was difficult. I feel like with time, it's just something I was able to accept, I guess. I had a therapist at one point too. We were talking about grief, and he kind of explained it to me in a way that I've always remembered, and that he kind of had a whiteboard. He drew, like, if you had a graph, just a straight positive line going up, but instead of a straight line, it was kind of curly. So it would go up and then back down, curl back up. So grief is a positive slope, but there's all those curls in there where maybe you have a bad day, it'll go back down, but you're always going to keep going up. It's always going to keep getting better. So that really stuck with me, and I think about that all the time still. I have bad days for sure, I have bad days about my brother, I have bad days about my friends, and I think that's something that's going to happen forever, but I'm definitely at a better place than I was back then. I see improvements, in all that.